Will it?
I'm not too old for this shit. I'm not too old for this. You will not. We're not too old for this shit.
Oh, well,
We're not too old for this shit. We're not too old for this. Say it like you believe it. We're not too old for this shit. Yeah.
Or are they? Yet, Lethal Weapon 5 finally gets a plot details from Mel Gibson. Now, the question is, will this movie actually ever happen? We now have the unfortunate news that Danny Glover, of course, is suffering from Alzheimer's. Hasn't fully kicked in from what we understand, but I think it does cause a risk to bring him in. But they have been working on this. Donner himself was working on this. Made Gibson promise to finish it. And Gibson himself is meant to direct it. But he was at Fan Expo and has broken down what the idea behind this particular movie is on what to expect. So the big question now is, will it actually happen? I think a lot of people will kind of say, just let it rest. I think another side will say, no, definitely give us that one last hurrah. It all really comes down to what's more important, getting this movie out or the health of particularly Danny Glover at this stage. But let's take a look at this. I, for one, love the Lethal Weapon movies. All of them. I think they're all perfect movies. Just about. So, as you can see, Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh spent 4 movies questioning whether they were getting too old for this stuff. Why don't you just say what they say? But 28 years later, they are gearing up to get back in action. Murtaugh was groaning about his impending retirement in '87 when the franchise launched, yet he and his loose cannon partner spent the next decade dodging bullets, blowing things up and driving the LAPD to the brink of insanity. Which, yes, that is exactly what was happening. Now, this article very much paints it as this is a done deal, that it's absolutely moving forward right now. But it's not. It is stuck. Not in development hell, because apparently the script is now done. Gibson and this other writer have completed the script, which had been started by Richard Donner. It's whether or not the studios will move forward with it. And of course, Warner Brothers is up for sale, but I think Warner Brothers might just go, okay. And what Gibson says about it could give them more confidence. So let's take a look at what he actually says. So he was speaking to Collider at the Boston Expo. And he said this: Donner realised it. I think he did all of those films, and sadly he's passed away. But he sort of knew what he had. And Shane Black wrote a good script. It was timely. You know, it was 80s. We were used to these tough guys on film who kind of had it all together, but they were tough and two-dimensional in a lot of ways. So this one was better because the main protagonists in the story both had kind of vulnerabilities, and one was crazy and the other was scared, and it went a little deeper than the usual action flick. Now, just before I continue, he's not talking about the script for this one. He's talking about throughout all the action movies back then, you know, your Arnie movies, your Stallone, Van Damme's, Bruce Willis, all this stuff, that here was these two detectives who were vulnerable. You know, Murtaugh was talking about retirement, he's a family man and stuff, and of course Riggs had lost his wife and was on the edge of ending things. So there are good things about each one, but as you say, they tend to get diluted out there a lot. And, you know, Donner, when he was 90 years old, was working on the 5th. And, of course, he passed away in the middle. So, I got together with the writer, and we completed it thinking, what would Donner do? That's what we were thinking in the room. And I think that the 5th script is better than all of the others. But it's tied up in some kind of industrial film hell that you can't extract it from to make it. So there's the confirmation that this thing is not exactly a full done deal yet. That it does seem to be kind of wrapped up in. Now, what he could be talking about there is the fact that Warner Brothers is getting sold and stuff like that, and it might be stuck there where, you know, they're kind of thinking, do we take the risk on it? You know, if we put money into it, will Paramount take over and cancel it, or what could happen? So I think that's what he's talking about there. So he does go on, and this is where he kind of talks about what to expect this time around. So he's saying, like, Gibson is set to pull double duties in Lethal Weapon 5 as the film's director and lead actor alongside his former co-star. He will reprise his role as Riggs, while Glover will return as his long-suffering partner Murtaugh. According to Gibson, the plot will fast forward to the present day, which I think is hilarious that they're adding that in, because they're hardly going to set it in the 80s, as the duo navigate the challenges of aging and career shifts, with one of them retired and the other working a desk job. So they're also saying it's going to be more grounded and more in line with the original, at least the first movie. So this is what he said. It only harks back to the others in the minimal way, but it's a story all on its own. The characters are quite different. They're older. One's retired. The other one's on a desk job. He's putting on too much weight, and it's low tech. It doesn't get into the big explosions and all this sort of stuff, but it still has the energy and, I think, drive of a big action film. Like, let's say, for instance, Apocalypto. It's a foot chase, right? But it's kind of filmed like a car chase. So it still has all the elements of what was in the other films, but not nearly so complicated. But it deals more about the people in it, which that's what you want to hear. It's a character-driven story. You don't need to go over the top with all these explosions and stuff. So it finishes here saying, while studio bureaucracy even, currently keeps Lethal Weapon 5 in limbo, the long-awaited sequel promises to deliver a deeply personal tribute to Donner and a final ride for the senior detectives, provided Gibson can steer the project through development. For fans who have followed Riggs and Murtaugh since '87, the final chapter will represent the ultimate full circle moment, ensuring that the legendary duo goes out in style and on their own terms as they navigate new challenges and reflect on their storied partnership. So it's quite obvious that it would be Murtaugh who's retired and Riggs would be stuck on the desk. So that might be the easier way to bring Danny Glover back in. And now it does say somewhere in there where it would be the idea that although one's retired, one's on the desk job, they will get pulled out of retirement and from the desk to go on that one last ride. So the question now is Danny Glover in the best health and shape to actually do it? As I said, according to him and his representatives and his family, although he's diagnosed now with Alzheimer's, it hasn't fully kicked in. So I think you could get, providing you move quickly, you could get this done. Of course, that is where the question comes in with the studio. Would they be willing to take the risk on him? I think it would be pretty shitty of them if they didn't, to be honest with you, for one last ride with these two. It's very interesting. And of course, the question is, would it be a pass the torch? Doesn't even sound like that. That's what the rumours were always. Oh, it would be this passing of the torch for the kids to take over and stuff. And it doesn't sound like what it is at all. It really does sound like just one big last hurrah for Riggs and Murtaugh. But I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'd be very interested, especially in Mel Gibson directed Lethal Weapon. That could be really, really interesting. But it's only up to the studio now, because he did say the script is finished. They do now have the script there ready to go. So it's just a question of whether the studio will allow it to happen. Time will tell, I suppose, and time is something they really don't have. So hopefully they decide sooner rather than later. But let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see it? Do you think it should just be laid to rest, or do you think they should honour not just Richard Donner, but Danny Glover as well? Let me know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, hit that hype button, all that good stuff, you know the drill. Cheers, I'll catch you in the next one.